The following program is being presented to you by a community producer. The statements, views, and opinions expressed are not necessarily those of ALC TV or the City of Avon Lake.
Welcome to Common Sense. Common Sense is a show that features interviews with interesting people so that we can learn in a clear, concise, and direct way who these folks are, what they do, and what makes sense to them and what doesn't. I'm Rudy Breglia, and today I'll be interviewing Gregory Fanning, the chairman of the Lorain County Young Republicans. Greg, why don't you start us off by giving us some background, where you were born, where you've lived, and what brings you to this part of Ohio?
Well, thank you, Rudy, for having me on here today. I appreciate it. This is a good show, and I've watched a little bit of it, so thank you. But
okay.
So I'm originally from Virginia, actually, Reston. I was born in Reston. I lived in, grew up in Alexandria, Virginia.
Okay.
Then, well, my family's, has deep roots in the state, and they're all over. They're in Cincinnati and Dayton and all over. So I've always kind of had Ohio as a second home of mine, and I'm proud to call it home now.
Okay.
So Avon, I've always known Avon and stuff like that. So that's a little bit about me.
Okay.
Yeah.
When and why did you start your political activity in the Republican Party?
So I started, I've always been a conservative person, really. I've always kind of been politically active, political family and such, conservative family. And I actually started in 2016, after the 2016 election. Kind of got inspired by President Trump in a few ways.
Okay.
And so after that, I kind of just started volunteering on campaigns, and I just kept working up the ladder and learning different things, learning new experiences, making new connections, and now I'm here and I'm the chairman, so I can use all that experience I've learned kind of towards my role and to help, young Republican activities in Lorain County.
What campaigns have you been involved in? What were your duties?
So I guess just run through a few of them. My first campaign was in Virginia. Ed Gillespie, he was a former RNC chairman. I was a volunteer of him, did my first door knocking in his campaign, the whole ticket, so that was pretty memorable. In 2018, I worked for a rising star in the party, Nick Freitas. He ran for Senate. He's gave some viral speeches before. I worked for him, friends with him. He ran for Congress also in 2020. Worked for a state representative candidate in Virginia in 2019 and 2020. I had my first paid staffer job as on a lieutenant governor campaign as a regional field director. Candidate didn't win, but experience counts is what matters.
Still in there, right?
Yeah, exactly.
What's the difference in campaigns of local versus state and federal?
Well, it's quite drastic, I would say. I mean, a local campaign is completely different sets of issues, completely different people you're dealing with. With a local, you're dealing with more. They're talking about the sidewalks and the stop signs. It's very local. I think it's where the most work gets done. You can do the most work, I believe, as a city councilman or whatever. But with, a federal race, you deal with completely new sets of issues. People are concerned about, why did you vote this way? Why didn't you vote for this thing? We're dealing with different kinds of endorsements. We're dealing with different kinds of campaign staffers, different kind of consultants, just bigger campaign teams. More complicated. I can't tell you how many times I've thought to myself, the differences between like a district race and a statewide campaign. I mean, they're just so different. I mean, it is, wow. I prefer district races, to be honest with you, but these statewide races are something else, I gotta say. So,
why did you restart the Lorain County Young Republicans?
Well, I believe it's very important to have youth involved in our political system. The Lorain County Young Republicans. This is the fourth time it's been started, actually, and it's failed 3 times before, and I don't want it to happen. I don't want that to happen again. So I restarted it to get young people involved, to start, get them in the process and start getting them together and winning elections, and having candidates that can,
relate to the younger folks.
relate to younger people, and actually, have a next generation of conservative candidates who can run and win. So,
could you give us your mission statement and some of the current details about the Young Republicans in Lorain County?
Yeah, so the Young Republicans, National Republican Federation, Young Republicans Federation, has their mission statement: recruit, train, and elect. Recruiting new people, training, campaign staffers, candidates, grassroots activists, supporters even, and electing, candidates. Currently, the national YRs have an initiative called Run YR, actually. So it's about running young Republican candidates, and we have a few of them here in Lorain County. Our county recorder, Mike Duran, and we have a few more city councilmen, and they are all in elected office. Nick just won his first election, so a lot of young rising stars in the party just getting started, and but we're just, I kind of value elect the most, and you need to train in order to elect, but so.
Understand.
Yeah.
When did you assume the chairman's role?
So I was elected chairman in May, actually. So I was kind of acting chairman for the time we were getting set up, and then we had our first meeting, and I was elected by our members. So,
what are your current responsibilities?
So the chairman's role is an executive position. So I kind of set the strategy and how we want to do things. From that being, setting, money, how we want to do things financially. Just basically an executive role. Generally, any company executive is what a chairman does. So,
what prepared you for assuming the chairman's role?
Yeah, I would say that working on campaigns and learning things and making connections. Exactly. I think the experience really helped me in the day, because when I'm trying to make a difficult decision, it's great to go back on the experience I learned and remember that, and remember things people have told me, taught me, whatever, just different things people have told me over time, and I've learned. I think that experience really helps at the end of the day.
Why is there such an emphasis these days on the young age group?
Well, I think it's a pretty simple answer, Rudy. It's just they're next generation. They're the past. They're the future, and they're even the present now. And if we don't have a future, if we don't have a good bunch of young people, I don't know where our country is
no future,
going.
right?
Exactly, no future. So,
how do you attract young people to your organization?
Well, it's just a matter of social media. We found is a good avenue. A lot of young people are on social media. We found. What else? Just different kind of things. Having our different events. Just having events. Being active. Showing that you can come to our meetings. We're here for you. Come on in.
Right.
We're here for you.
We're good people.
We are good people. Right. Yeah.
How do the Young Republicans finance their activities? You mentioned that.
I talked to an elected official yesterday, and we were just discussing about how it's hard to raise money. It really is, and in this area, it's a little bit harder to raise it in other parts of the state. It's a harder place to raise money. So we rely basically on small dollar donors. We rely on just contributions from generous individuals, and that's basically how we finance ourselves. So it's hard, but we do it.
Yeah, especially these days.
Exactly, very much so.
What plans the Young Republican organization have for 2022?
Yeah.
And beyond.
Oh, yeah. So currently we're planning a few things. We're hoping to have a U.S. Senate primary debate for Republicans. We're hoping to get all the candidates together and ask them some questions, have it televised and all that, and just, get our name ID up in a process and, help the people show what kind of candidates they have running. We want to have our own dinner at some point. We're still figuring that one out. Hopefully on Flag Day, actually, we want to do it on that day.
Is that in June?
Yeah, June 14th, I think, is the day. I hope I got that right. But
okay,
we're hoping to do that. We're hoping. My goal as chairman, I eventually want to have have different area regional directors, and that can any candidate can call and say we need help with this, and there are some PAC laws that we can't directly coordinate with candidates, but we can still help them. But it's good to have a experienced people helping these candidates out, because a lot of times these candidates are
First time.
It's first time and they're struggling. It's not their thing, and we want to use our experience to help them. So.
Okay, that sounds like a good idea.
Yeah.
What candidates have the young Republicans endorsed for 2022, and what's that vetting process like?
Yeah, well, we've not endorsed anybody yet for this year. We endorsed a lot of candidates last year for school board and city council. Like I mentioned, that a few of our endorsed candidates were sworn in. Which
Good pickers, huh?
Yeah, which it's good to see. But our vetting process is pretty simple. We just invite them to have an interview with us. We ask them a series of questions. I know we had kind of a problem in 2021 and we couldn't get a hold of certain candidates. Certain candidates didn't respond. And people didn't like that, we endorse certain candidates, but, we endorse candidates based upon what they stand for or what we think they stand for, and we endorse the best candidate possible. And end of the day, if they don't come to the interview, what are you going to do? But we try to have the most open process possible, and please come, and we want to interview you, we want to endorse you, and see if you're a good fit for our organization to endorse.
Okay, it sounds like a good plan.
Yeah.
What is the Political Advocacy Group, and what does it do?
Yeah, so a PAC, it's a political action committee, and it's pretty much the same thing actually.
Okay, all right.
It's all right, but it's basically just it's a campaign committee, but it's not really a campaign committee. It's a political action committee that's job is to raise money to help elect or defeat candidates, basically. It's about raising money for candidates. That's what's on the FEC website. You have different kind of PACs in there. We have state PACs and federal PACs and super PACs. We're not a super PAC. We're not that bad, but
okay.
But yeah, that's basically, we just raise money for certain candidates and help them win.
Okay, understand. Tell us about the recent results in local Board of Education elections, and do they indicate anything going on?
Yeah, I mean, we endorsed 8 candidates, and I'll be honest, 2 of them only won. It was not impressive at all by any means, but what that tells me is that we have work to do. We have our work cut out for us. And we had some significant opposition. In Avon, we had PACs. Our opponents were creating PACs with all sorts of money. They were doing all sorts of things, illegally, illegally. I won't go into that, but
okay,
it was
let's hold back.
It was questionable.
All right.
But our opponents were definitely a challenge, and at the end of the day, I believe that they did a little bit better than we did. And I think it's just I think what that told us was we need funds to do it, because our opponents had a lot of money. We did not. We did the best we could. We had good results. I wouldn't say we had excellent results, but we had good results, I would say. But I think it indicates that we just have our work cut out for us in the end.
Understand. What corruption exists currently in Ohio, and how would you stop it and assure that it doesn't happen in the future? Yeah,
well, I mean, I remember that Ohio is one of the most corrupt states, and this is according to, I think, Business Insider. I think it's the 6th most corrupt state in the nation. You've had a Spectrum One News called it a culture of corruption in the state of Ohio. You've had 2 speakers of the House arrested in a row. I mean, that's the first energy scandal implicating, certain members of the, Ohio Republican Party, and it's been bad. So it's not okay that I believe that corruption's not partisan. It's on both sides of the aisle, and I think we need to pass anti-corruption legislation immediately. We need to. There's a good place called Represent Us. I don't agree with everything they stand for, but they have a good anti-corruption legislation that's worked all across the country. So this state's in desperate need of serious anti-corruption legislation, so the government can get back to serving the people and not serving themselves. So
understand. What industries, corporations, job opportunities could be brought back to Ohio, and how can this be done?
Yeah, I mean, I look at Ohio in its history. I mean, we're the state that created aviation. We're the state that put the first man on the moon. We're a pretty successful state.
Yeah, you bet.
And I think that we've seen Ohio. I believe it's taken a decline over the last 30 years. And I've not been alive that long, but I study history, and I have done my own research. And it's just Ohio's been having problems, and that's problems are just a reason to fix something, I believe. But I believe that I think businesses have left the state. They prefer to go to states with like North Carolina, Florida, Texas, Tennessee. Nashville is apparently the new booming city. Don't ask me how. But I think that corporations they just haven't been attracted to our state for some reason. I think it's because of a lot of things from, I think a good amount of burdensome regulations to, the corruption problem to just a risky economy to young people leaving. It could be a mixture of different things. But right now it's hard to say why businesses, why they're not coming here. I think it's economic problems. But yeah.
How would you encourage young graduates to either come to Ohio or stay put in Ohio?
Yeah. Well, I think it's a hard decision to make. I have friends and family members who are, struggling with, just finding employment. These are people who are in their middle 30s. They're having troubles, and it really kills me to see it. It's to be honest with you, right now, a lot of young graduates are not staying here. They're going to states that, where the industries, where the tech firms are, where the best of the best are. And Ohio doesn't have those best of best right now. They used to, but they don't. And but what would I say to them? I would just say, hold out. I would say help is on the way, in a way, because I believe Ohio's best days are coming. It's just a matter of waiting and getting the right people in there to do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now to switch gears on you a little bit, what approaches could be employed to reverse the opium epidemic? The last number I heard was 100,000 Americans die every year from overdoses.
Yeah, I remember the National Center for Drug Abuse said Ohio is like fourth in the country for drug abuse. I mean, it's sad. There's no other way to put it. It is a sad state of affairs. And, I'm not sure what the exact solution is. I think education is a big one, teaching what these drugs can do to you. Mm-hmm. How to say no to drugs, that's a big one. I mean, you would think it's common sense, but like your show suggests, it's common sense to say no.
I
right?
like when interviewees say that.
It's common sense to say no, right? And that seems to be a big problem in, the colleges, all these different kind of binge drinking things and, just popping pills like it's candy. And people just get hooked on it intentionally and unintentionally, intentionally or unintentionally. It really doesn't matter. Our kids are significantly affected by this, and this is the future. Like I said before, if we don't do something about this opioid problem, and it's not going to fare well, especially in our state. So.
What do you think would happen if the use of narcotics and cocaine were legalized?
Oh my God, I don't think that. I think that would be a recipe for disaster. Legalizing a horrible substance like cocaine and narcotics. I mean, if it's medically, I think medicinally, the doctors have their uses for it. Like fentanyl, they use it for anesthesia purposes and other things like that. But yeah, that would not go well. But we also have to remember that it's one thing to legalize or, make something illegal. If you want to actually stop people from doing it, it's a matter of having societal change. You have to educate. You can make abortion illegal. It doesn't mean it's going to stop. You have to teach people, how to, that's a whole different set of discussion. But the point is, you have to teach people things on how to, preventative measures, basically. That's kind of the way you do that to get ahead of it so it doesn't happen to you, I would say.
Understand. Should violence be a significant factor in the plea bargaining process that we know takes place or in sentencing criminals?
Yeah, well, I'm not a legal expert, but I mean, I think that violence should definitely be a factor when you're sentencing someone. I think when somebody commits a violent crime, absolutely, the level of violence should definitely be taken into consideration. If you burn down a whole building intentionally and you kill 5 people, okay, that's a pretty serious crime. It's murder and destruction of private property and all that. So, absolutely, violence should definitely be a significant factor in sentencing and plea bargaining. Absolutely, yeah.
Okay. What's your position on critical race theory and or a similar theory that's being taught in elementary schools?
Yeah. Well, I'm a lot of times it's not called that. That's what I've learned from being chairman and dealing with this issue intensively over the last election cycle. That critical race theory may not actually be the curriculum they're teaching us. There's not some, you don't go to some website and it's sitting right. No, it's embedded in parts
bold
of the
print.
Yeah, it's not in bold print. It's sitting in different parts of the curriculum. It's hidden, right? It's just in different places. It's in like reading and why it is your friend treated differently. It's because he's black. It's in like kids reading books. You see all these crazy things where it's like it's in like a second grader's reading. It's just like
Dick and Jane.
Yeah, exactly. It's like it's ridiculous. And so that's what I've learned, that it's hidden. It's not it's not just there. It's out. It's hidden. But sometimes critical race theory is actually there. I've seen this across the country. It's actually there. It's an actual curriculum being taught. And that's just basically teaching kids to look at their friends based upon their race. That's what critical race theory actually is. Some people can't define it. Well, that's definition. Nobody. We should never look at someone based on the color of their skin. Martin Luther King said,
character,
the content of your character, not the color of your skin. And we need to get back to that. Our opponents, the left always talks about, well, you need to have racial equity. Well, it's like Martin Luther King said it best, content of character, not color of skin, and another contradiction. So,
understand.
Yeah.
What reforms would you propose for the current educational system?
Well, I believe that the education system I think it has a lot of problems. We rank 27th in the world in education according to Business
Terrible.
Terrible, right? Business Insider said that, and it's one of my passions. I went through high school and I got to see firsthand, the problems I faced. As somebody who was, struggled academically. It's the system, I believe, is not really built to help people who are struggling. I really don't believe it. I believe we need to get back to in elementary school, middle school, teaching kids the basics: reading, writing, arithmetic. Taking out the racial stuff, just teaching kids the basics they need to understand to be successful. Middle school, honing in on those skills. In high school, teaching life skills. Life skills is a big one. Teaching them how to be successful. And at college, zoning in on what you want to do and helping you be a successful person and an educated citizen too. That's very important. Educated citizen. Knowing civics, knowing how your country works, knowing, the weather. I mean, just knowing basic skills, knowing how to add. It's just very important. You wouldn't think I have to say these things, but it's, we need an educated citizenry and successful citizens. That's what we really need. Successful citizens really sums it up the best.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about support for vouchers or charter schools?
Well, I believe that in a perfect world, I would love to have a perfect public education system. I would love to have one that everyone could rally behind. Best public schools in the world. Some of the best countries. The countries that have the best education systems have extremely successful public school systems. So I believe we need to get back to that. But currently, our public schools are just not up to par with that. So charter schools are definitely the option. Hillsdale College charter schools. I don't know if you're familiar with them, but they're very good. That's where I currently go to college. And I think that's a great. Charter schools are great. I think Montessori schools have their pros. And I think those are kind of the schools that I call the field hospitals until we can get public education back online.
So it gives people a way to go.
Exactly, and gives people a choice. I mean, school choice is important too, don't get me wrong.
Right.
That's a good short-term goal. I think, the Republicans talk about it like it's to save. You say it's going to save it's not going to save everything. It's a Band-Aid to heal a wound. That's what it is. We got to call it what it is. It's a
until something better comes along.
Until something better comes along, and we get serious about education reform in this country. School choice and charter schools are the way to go. Yeah.
Okay. How can we teach our children to be successful?
Yeah, that is That's a great question, Rudy. I appreciate it. Getting back to what I said before, in elementary school, just teaching them the basics, reading, writing, arithmetic, geography, just learning the basics. In middle school, honing in on those sciences and those maths and helping them, learn to be, mathematically proficient, the times tables even, basic stuff like that. And then
Know how to read.
There's people who come out of high school not knowing how to read. I mean, it's not a good
Sad.
It's very sad. There's people who come out of high school not knowing who the vice president is. It's just like, oh my, this is a problem. But in high school, teaching them the life skills I mentioned, how to cook a healthy meal, even how to do your one thing young friends of mine tell me is, I wish I knew how to do taxes. I wish I know how to file taxes and do all this. And it's like, hell, I think the same thing sometimes. It's just learning how to cook healthy meals, like I said, and positive psychology, learning how to say no to drugs and other things like that. Just being responsible, not driving while drunk. Just different things like that. So teaching those really, because in high school you can make a fundamental impact in a person's life if you teach them the right things. Mm-hmm. And you teach them, why. Why is an important thing in your teenage years. And in college, you're assuming that you've, learned how to be a successful citizen and learning all the basics about, life skills and, basic stuff, I call it, basic civics and basic math, reading and writing, arithmetic. You should focus in on what you want to do, What are you going to do to help our country and help you be a good person, your career? Whether that being a doctor, going to graduate school, getting your PhD like I know you did, or whatever that may be, going to college and graduate school and finding, and that may not be graduate school, it may not even be college, it may be trade school or something, I should add that, everyone's not supposed to go to college. That's a myth that we need to debunk, it's trade school is good. If you want to be a plumber, don't go to college. Common sense, right? That's what I call it. It keeps coming back. It's a great topic. So yeah, I'm thinking college, it's a good time to focus in on what you want to do, assuming that you're proficient and, you're an educated citizen already. Yeah.
What are the biggest challenges facing Ohio today, and how would you resolve them? I know that's a really big, open-ended question, but if you can come up with a couple.
Yeah, well, I put a little bit of thought into it. I think the first thing is creating good government. I call it good government. Cutting red tape. Stopping corruption. Just fighting for this a government that listens to the people, that hears them, that wants to hear their voice and take their voices and actually be representatives that take their voices and make that a significant factor in decisions they make. And of course, public servants have to, do their due diligence and actually make decisions sometimes against popular opinion. That's just the art of governing and the art of being a representative. So that's a big one. I think you can't do anything unless you have good government.
True.
The second thing I would say is education. It is a huge problem, I shouldn't have said that, but it sounded like someone else, huge, But it's a big problem, and it's the future of the country we're talking about here, And we just talked about that in depth a little bit, but we need to seriously take a look at it. I think teachers' unions, we need to bring them to the table. A lot of times they don't want to come to the table. They frustrate me, to say the least. They do frustrate me. I wish they would just put the kids first. So those two things, good government, education. I would say the next one would be the economy. Revitalizing Ohio's economy. Bringing jobs back here. I would say even getting rid of the state income tax over the next 10 years. I know Congressman Jim Racy is running for governor. He has a whole plan to cut the cat tax. Get Ohio on a consumption tax. Sales tax and property taxes and things like that. Eliminating Eliminating property taxes for people 65 and over. I think that was an idea floated around.
I kind of like
that.
Yeah,
I'm sure you would, Rudy. Things like that. I think the last one is the public safety problem. Ohio has some of the most dangerous cities in the country. Cleveland, Columbus, and Cincinnati. And these are cities that were part of the Industrial Revolution back in the 1900s. Uh-huh. And they're not so that way anymore. And I want to bring up the point about the opioids. That's a big point. We also have to look at the human trafficking problem too. I think the opioids and human trafficking problem are directly connected. I think they're very connected, to be honest with you. I think that the same people who traffic children and traffic, human beings are the ones who are smuggling drugs across the southern border.
Okay.
I
Same
think,
criminals.
yeah, it's exactly. I think a lot of this stuff is coming across our southern border. I think these cartels in South America, they're smuggling across our border.
Very powerful.
Exactly, very powerful, and they're turning every town into a border town. I talked to a congresswoman over the summer, and she showed me this horrific video from an ICE agent, and it was just, as far as you could see, just kids lined up under a bridge in McAllen, Texas, I think it was. It was just, and you got to ask yourself, why does this matter to people in Ohio? Well, these people are coming here. These probably, some of them are just escaping the horrors of what they've come from, but I don't know about all of them. So we have the opioid and drug problem and the human trafficking problem, I think, is directly related to the southern border. I think that's causing a lot of human safety problems because Ohio does have a problem with human trafficking.
Right.
We had Elyria City Councilman Mark Jesse, who was arrested on a solicitation of prostitution and human trafficking. He was able to be voted out of office by one of our endorsed candidates, but it's not good when you have that. Elected officials who are supposed to be fighting this are implicit in it. That's not a good thing. So I would say that the biggest issues facing Ohio is the economy, education, good government, and the public safety problem. Those are the four main issues, and I think healthcare too. I think focusing on healthcare is a big one. The obesity problem. I don't want to offend people, but it's becoming a problem. It's becoming I believe a national health crisis. It's not good, and that's I think you see this more along the Midwest area. I believe in just helping people be better. Be Better was First Lady Melania Trump's thing, was the Be Better campaign. Be better. I believe that's be better is be taking care of yourself. Learning how to eat healthy, and that's going back to education. Learning when you're young how to eat healthy, how to cook a meal. Just the basic stuff you need to learn to be successful. So those are the issues that I think are plaguing Ohio, and I think that are easily fixed if we get the right people in there.
Well put.
Yeah.
How can Avon Lakers support your efforts? Do you need volunteers?
Well, volunteers are always helpful, but I think one of our things is, young people. If you're a young person and you're just a least bit concerned about the way your country is going, or just have an issue, maybe you're someone who's center left, maybe you're someone who wants to just debate us. We'll have a good debate. We love to debate, but. What you can do to support us is we're always looking for financial support. I don't like asking for money, but that is the way it's the way that we can best fund our operations and help get candidates. We want to have a full-fledged field operation that can help get conservative candidates and just pro-community candidates elected to office. We really want to do that. That's our main goal here. So money is the best way to do that, to help fund our efforts and help fund the people who are working, like myself and my team, to help us, be financially, because we can't do anything if we're not, in a good place financially. So, financially, can't say it enough. That is the best way to fund our efforts and help enact change in Lorain County.
I think the website address is going to be appearing on the screen.
Yes, the website address, you can go there. I think my contact information's up there too, so you can get in contact with me, and you can get in contact with our team, and we can help you take the next step to help change your community and help change your country and for the better. So.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Greg, and
thank you.
Viewers. Thank you very much for watching this installment of Common Sense. If you have any questions or comments, our email addresses should appear on the bottom of the screen. If you are an interesting person, or you know someone who's interesting, please have them contact me, give me the contact details, and we'll pursue that. Thank you very much for watching. You have a good day.
The preceding program was presented to you by a community producer. The statements, views, and opinions expressed were not necessarily those of ALC TV or the City of Avon Lake.